on the physics of rotating objects at the boundaries of gravitational fields. A Cassidy Chronicle story. In hindsight, it was probably the wrong venue for her proposal. Yes, she'd first asked him out at a Fleet bowling party, which is one reason she'd chosen the bowling alley. The fact that the alley was aboard an orbital habitat that housed 40,000 people was immaterial. Still, she invited their mutual friends but skipped family. Her parents were Earthside and weren't going to come up for a night. Her sisters? Busy, as usual. His parents were divorced, remarried, and couldn't stand the sight of each other. Not what she wanted tonight. Tonight was about them and their future. Maybe they'd only been dating for 4 months. So what? When love was right, it was right. It didn't matter how long or how short the relationship was. All her friends said so. So did all the e-zines and the stupid rom-coms she giggled at with Shannon and hated herself for wasting time on the next morning. She was going to propose to Elliott. She'd gotten pointers from Petra, who'd also proposed to her husband. She'd also received advice from both Ayanna and Kendra, which was a bit weird. Kendra was the admiral, for the God's sake. She knew she could do it. Hell, she ran a squadron, didn't she? That was one of the obstacles, of course. She ran a squadron and wasn't about to give it up. He was tactical officer aboard the Enterprise and wasn't going to give that up either. Whatever shape their marriage took, it was going to mean long separations unless one bent to the career of the other. A voice interrupted her musings. "Hey, Daniela." She looked up.
"Hi, Shannon."
"Nervous?"
"Nah, he'll say yes."
"No, I mean about the party."
"What party?"
"The birthday party. For Wrangler."
"What?"
"You didn't know? His buddies booked a couple lanes tonight so they can get stonkered while making fun of his hook."
"No, oh crap."
She called up the reservations on her implant. There was hers, lanes 1 through 4, and yep, looked like Mutant had booked lanes 5 and 6.
"Well, we'll just deal."
"Hi, babe," she said, giving him a kiss. She took his arm and started walking with him. "Sorry I'm late. Staff meeting ran over." "Your fault." She fingered his uniform jacket. She was in casual clothes. Much as she loved her pilot's uniform, she was not going to propose marriage in her combats. "Well,
"Never mind."
she emphasized her point with another kiss.
"Come on."
He slid his hand into hers and said, "What's the occasion?"
"No occasion, at least not for us. Wrangler's throwing a party, so it's probably going to get noisy, but we're just taking the chance to get together with some friends."
They might have been dating for 4 months, but he knew her tells. "Uh-huh. Pull the other one."
"Maybe a little celebration of Shannon's promotion?"
"And yours?" The pride in his voice shone and lifted her spirits.
"Don't remind me,"
groaned Daniela.
"I didn't think being Shannon's deputy would carry so much extra paperwork."
He opened the hatch for her and the volume jumped. "You know the fleet flies on paper, not antimatter, right?"
"I'm learning."
She returned a wave from Mutant before veering left to join their friends. The welcome was raucous. Direwolf pilots weren't noted as shy and retiring, and the Starship crew felt they had to uphold the honor of their vessel. The parties mixed naturally. After all, Shannon was the former Wolf CO and had trained a bunch of them. It interfered with Daniela's plans since she needed a moment where their friends weren't being pulled in different directions to pop the question. Still, she had time. Unbelievably, there was some actual bowling going on for values of bowling. Bowling balls were headed more or less down the lanes at irregular intervals, though the pins weren't in any particular danger. Then Hopalong had the bright idea of adjusting the gravity. One of the benefits of living aboard the Njord was all gravity was artificial and controlled. You could have it tweaked to fit, whether you wanted to do some low-G gymnastics or increase your weight training without getting additional equipment. And Diana, the station AI, could do this in any area, including the bowling alley.
"Hey, Diana!"
Her usual avatar appeared. "Yes, Hopalong?"
"We ain't hitting shit. Less gravity."
The slightly slurred words didn't seem to bother her. It's a problem with your aim, not the gravity. No, we're good. We just need less the balls need to be lighter. Very well, Hopalong. What setting? Let's do Luna normal. Moonball. No, Ceres. 130G for lanes 5 and 6 in effect. Thanks. Grab a beer if you want. Perhaps another time. She vanished. He grabbed a ball, shoved past Jammer, and launched it down lane. In the reduced field, it didn't even arc. Instead, it flew the entire length before disappearing into the back of the lane, completely missing the pins yet again. Daniela only noted it in passing. She was still gathering her group together. It took several minutes, punctuated by the occasional cheer or groan from Wrangler and his buddies, but she finally had them all following her. It helped that Wrangler's birthday cake was on its way out, a white monstrosity in the shape of a wolf shuttle. Elliott was up next on lane 4, his last frame. Perfect timing. His first throw was a bit off, leaving the 10-pin standing. After this, she thought, ring in hand and moving closer. Her friends grew silent as they realized the moment was now. Elliott remained blissfully ignorant of the non-commotion behind him. He lined up and released, the ball spinning down the right side of the lane, the edge closest to lane 5. Artificial gravity does odd things at field boundaries. There are ebbs and eddies, turbulence and interference zones, and the steeper the gradient, the stronger the effects. Daniela was a veteran pilot of the hottest bird in the fleet. She'd seen plenty of oddities in her flying days. She'd never seen anything quite like this. A third of the way down the lane, Elliott's ball abruptly rose as if it had entered a vertical U-turn. Elliott squawked in surprise, drawing every eye to the wildly spinning ball, now veering over lane 5 and heading toward the pilots clustered around the cake. They dropped to the deck to avoid the 4-kilo missile, which slammed into the pastry, which more or less exploded. Everything within 3 meters was covered with cake and icing, including Daniela, still standing, watching the progress of the ball. She was liberally splattered from head to toe, including the ring. Chocolate? She thought, licking her lips and wiping frosting from her eyes. She saw Elliott, shocked into stillness, lightly dotted with pastry debris a meter away. Daniela held out the cake-transformed ring. Marry me? Elliott sputtered, wiping at the cake in the sudden silence, and Daniela's heart dropped. Gods love me. How in the 7 hells did this happen? What if this is an omen, a warning? Her arms settled lower, her thoughts raced, and all the doubts and worries which plagued her took their turn. Then he was pulling her to her feet and embracing her, cake and icing be damned. Yes, I'll marry you, he was saying. Then he was kissing her, and her world brightened again. They gradually became aware of the cheers and applause of their friends around them, and reluctantly separated. He said yes, Daniela shouted. Kind of figured, Shannon shouted back. I don't think it's official until you give him the ring, added Locksmith. Elliott waggled his fingers at her. Laughing and aided by the icing, she slid the ring down, giving him another kiss for good measure. Elliott raised his hand, rotating it so everyone could see. Chocolate, he said. I always dreamed of a chocolate ring. She leaned into him, and his arm came down around her. Hey, Danny, he said under the din before they were mobbed with well-wishers. Yeah? Next time you have a question, a life-altering one? Yeah? Ask me in quarters. And no cake? His headshake was emphatic. No cake. Deal.